Okay, in this lesson we're going to start our website project, which involves using some Vue and Firebase at the command prompt or terminal window. It's slightly different for Windows and Mac, so I'll show the Windows version first. If you're not using Windows, you can fast forward till you see the Apple logo and pick it up from there. Pretty much the same, but it's just that the languages are slightly different for the command prompt than Windows and Mac. All right, let's start with Windows. Click the Start button, type CMD, right-click Command Prompt on the Start menu and choose Run as Administrator. Next, you need to navigate to the folder where you want to create your project. I'm going to use my desktop for now. You can always move it later. So to get there, I have to type CD, change directory, a space, and then /users. Make sure you use a backslash, not a slash, not a forward slash. /users and press enter, and now the prompt will show you that you're in your users directory or users folder. The next step is to go down one more level into your user account folder, which will have the same name as your user account. Okay, so if you're not sure what that is, you can type dir and press enter here and look at the names of the folders, but I happen to know mine is AC Simpson, so I'm going to type CD space AC Simpson and then press enter, and that'll take me down into my user account folder, and the prompt will reflect that path, which is the C drive, the users folder, the AC Simpson subfolder. Now, if you want to see what the name of all the files and folders are in any folder, just type dir and press enter. That'll list everything that's in there. I'm going to put this project on my desktop. You can put yours wherever you want. It really doesn't matter. But the desktop's just easy to work with, and I can always move it later to some other folder. All right. So to get to the desktop, I just type CD space desktop. Press enter, and the prompt changes to let you know you're now pointing at the desktop folder for your user account. All right, now I don't really need to see this stuff anymore, so I'll just type CLS, which is short for clear screen. Press enter, and that'll clear off everything but the command prompt. Okay, so far all I've done is navigate to the folder where I want to put my project, which is my desktop. I haven't actually created anything yet, and again, you can put your folder wherever you like. I'm just going through it kind of step by step because not everybody's used to working with the command prompt. To actually create your project, you need to type the command vue, V-U-E, space, init, which is short for initialize, space, webpack, which is just an optional tool we'll use to kind of package up the things so they're easier to work with, then space, and then the name of your project. In my case, that's going to be collects with an X, short for collections. All right, press enter. Next, it'll ask you some questions about this thing you're creating. If you want to keep the suggested name, just press enter. A description is optional. I'll call mine a Vue 2 and Firebase project. But again, if you just press enter, it would use that default. The author is me. Of course, you could put your own name there. Press enter. Press enter for the first option. No, I'm not going to use Vue Router. No, I'm not going to use ESLint. No, I'm not going to use unit tests. No, I'm not going to use Nightwatch. Now for each of those, I typed the letter N and pressed enter to answer no. This last one's giving me 3 choices. I want the bottom one, so I'll press the down arrow key a couple times to highlight that and press enter. And this is where we end up. Okay, they tell you what you need to do next. CD collects to get down into that folder you just created during that initialization process. Press enter. Whoops, collects X. All right, press enter, and then you want to type npm install. See, I'm in that collects subfolder on my desktop. npm space install. Press enter, and now you got to wait a bit because this takes a little time. But I'm going to speed it up so you don't have to watch it in real time. I mean, it will take several minutes, but don't worry about it. You don't have to do it often. And it's doing a lot of work so that you don't have to do that work. Now, you may see warnings and things like that as it goes along. Try to just ignore those. And don't worry about exact numbers or anything. You'll know you're done when you're back to the command prompt. To make sure everything's going to work, you can type npm space run space dev, and that tells it to run a development web server, which is basically the same idea as a real web server out on the web, except for it's running on your computer and it's serving up your project to your browser on your computer. So basically it's mimicking real life. Now keep in mind, only you're seeing this. This isn't a real web server where the public can get to it. This is just for testing and development purposes. And when the web server is loaded, it tells you how you can browse to your page or your project. So you would open up a web browser, doesn't matter which one, and browse to that URL. And when you press enter and get there, it opens up a generic page from the Vue project, and you didn't create this intentionally. It's just a sample page that's in the Vue project, but this tells you that everything's working so far, so you're good to go and start developing your Vue project, okay? But we're not just using Vue, we're using Firebase too, so we have another step. So you want to press Control-C, then type Y and press enter to cancel the web browser, and now you're back at your normal command prompt. And here, and again in your collects folder, you want to type npm space install space Firebase, then space and Vuefire, which allows Firebase to be used with Vue, and then -- save. Okay, now all this is in the Firebase documentation and the Vue documentation. Wasn't just born knowing this stuff, okay? But go ahead, type that in, press enter, and that will install Firebase and Vuefire into that collects folder, which is, again, your website. And that's going to allow you to use both Vue and Firebase in your project. Now, I'll speed it up again so you don't have to wait. Yours will take longer. At the end, it should look something like this, though that's more errors than I've seen in the past. I'm going to guess that they're not that important, but to test it out again, we'll run the development server. So that's npm space run space dev. Press enter, and you'll see the URL when the web server's ready to serve up your page. So go ahead and browse to that URL, and if that sample Vue page comes up, we'll assume you're good to go, and we are ready to move on to the next step where we actually finally start developing our app, our website. Now, that was the Windows version. Here's the Mac version for those of you who are strictly using Mac. It's the same basic idea, except you'll use the terminal window instead of a command prompt, and you'll use Unix type commands for, navigating around and creating folders and stuff. So the first step is to open terminal. If you don't have a preferred method, you can click the spotlight magnifying glass, search for terminal, and when you see terminal app, go ahead and open that. That should open up your terminal window, which is going to look something like this, and then you're ready to go. Start entering commands. Now, on this computer, my user account name is Alan, and I can see by the Alan dollar there that I'm currently in that folder. So I'm going to put this project on my desktop. So to get there, I type cd space desktop and press enter. To see the contents of a folder, you type ls and press enter. I only have one subfolder in mine called stuff and junk. All right, so when I do ls to see what's in my desktop, all I see is that one entry. To create our project, you want to enter the command sudo sudo, which is super user do. Just make sure you have lots of permissions. Space vue vue space init to initialize, space webpack, which is just an added tool we're going to use to help organize things, space, and then the name of the project, which in my case is collects with an X. All right, now since I use sudo, I have to put in the password for this account, and then press enter, and now it asks me what I want to do. I'll name it collects. Press enter. You can just use the generic description, or I'll type a new description. Press enter, type your name, press enter. On this one, I'm going to press enter to set the default. Each of these, I'll type N and press enter to accept no. We don't need to overcomplicate things here. Here, I'll choose that last option. So press down arrow a couple times to highlight that last option, then press enter to select it. And then it gives you a little feedback about how to proceed. Okay, so that created a folder named collects. So now I need to type cd space collects and press enter to get down into that folder. And they want me to do this npm install. I'm going to type sudo sudo space npm space install, and that's just to make sure you have a high level of rights to do this. If you forget, it'll probably still work, but no harm in sticking sudo on there. You don't need to enter the password again because you did last time. All right, now this is going to take a few minutes. I'll speed it up. And once that's done and you're back to the command prompt, you can test it by running the little development web server. It's a web server that runs on your computer that serves up the page. To run that, type npm space run space dev, just like that, and then press enter. It'll take a few seconds, and then you'll see a prompt telling you how to browse to the default web page for the site you just created. And the URL for that will be http://localhost : and then some port number. Mine's 8080. Yours might be different. Don't worry about that. Just use whatever URL they tell you to use. You can just pop up in your browser and stick that URL in the address bar and press enter. All right, so I'll just copy it here and then open up Safari. And from Safari in the address bar, I'll paste that in. And it takes me to that localhost : 8080. You don't see the whole path there unless you click it. Okay, but this is what you want to see, this whole page. Welcome to your Vue.js app. This is just a generic page that the project created. And the only reason we did that is to ensure that that page opened. And the fact that it opened tells us that everything is going great so far, no problems. But we're not done yet. We still need to bring in the Firebase component. So we need to get back to the command prompt, press Control-C to terminate that browser and get the normal command prompt back. And then here we want to type sudo, again for super user do, npm space install space firebase space viewfire space -- save, and press enter. Now this isn't just something I magically know. All this stuff is in the Firebase documentation and in the Vue documentation. Go ahead and type that in and press enter. And again, it might take a little while. I'll speed it up a bit here so you don't have to wait for the whole process. And when you get back to the command prompt again, we'll run it through the development server again, make sure everything's still working. So again, here you just type npm space run space dev and press enter. And when you see the URL for the project you're working on, go ahead and copy and paste it or type it into a browser address bar. And again, it should look the same as before. We're just testing to make sure we didn't break anything along the way here. Okay, I'll paste that in. All right, so I browse to that and I see the Vue.js app welcome page. That just tells me that everything's going well, so we're done with that. And so that's it, we're done. Our folder's created, and this is where we're going to be doing the rest of our development work. All right? Now back in the terminal window, you want to press Control-C to stop that server from running. Then you can just close that window with the red circle, and that's it. All right, in the next lesson, we're going to start writing actual code. All right, see you over there.